Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting question. And I think about that a lot myself. I don't really break it down to this quality is this and this quality is that, but I do feel like I'm a very mixed, personality in that sense, taking different elements from different cultures. And now I live in Singapore for about the last 11 years, a little bit in Hong Kong during that time as well, but and also lived in the UK for a bit as well. So it's been an amazing experience being able to live in different cultures and countries, meeting people from all over the world, and it made me very open to accept anything that I think is easy for me to comprehend that I should have as a quality as a person. So let's say like in Japan, I mentioned that it's a very consensus driven society. Everybody tries to look after other people more respectable. At least on the surface, they try to respect other people so that there's a certain harmony in society, and I really like that a lot because it does at least let us be able to live with each other with compassion. And I think that's really important quality that everybody should have. And if you look at very individualistic societies, I could take us. I wouldn't say that they're not compassionate. Obviously, there are compassionate people, many, many of them. But if the most important thing about yourself is the individual, and the individual is taken to the extreme where you can even define that as being selfish, then I don't think that really fits with society. I mean, you would rather just live by yourself, right? And
Yes.
so I don't believe in, like extreme individualism. I don't believe in extreme libertarianism either. And I think that one should really value, living and making, your own decisions yourself and try to live individually as much as possible if it doesn't hurt other people, right? And sacrifice other things. And there's always like a difficult balance that you need to find there. And I think Europe had like a very interesting mix of people who had the similar type of qualities as Japanese people, the consensus driven kind of thing, where and the individual as well. And I felt quite at ease, when I mingled with a lot of people there. And yeah, so I think those are things that I think about quite a lot, like the individual versus the society. And I and I think that's becoming like a very big focus for our world today as well. I mean, one side you see, in a certain country, everybody's screaming that they don't want to put on masks, and they don't care about, or maybe they're thinking that the science does not prove it. But if you're let's say in a pandemic situation like now, and you have to think about stopping the spread of the disease, and you have to think about others, but at the same time, if you're so individualistic that you don't want to listen to the government, you don't care about other people just because you don't want to wear a mask. I mean, that I think that's a little bit extreme in my view. So these I think these when everybody's in suffering, it really brings out your real character, and that's when you're like really being tested.
Yeah.
So, and then in times you do have to think about society, and you have to think about the well-being of each other, the planet as well. And then sometimes when things are peaceful and you could do whatever you want, then go out and do it. But always have this mentality that you as an individual can't live without the society either, and you have to create a good balance with it. And I think I kind of learned that pretty well over the time that I lived in different countries.
Mm. No, that's I love this because I love this topic because yes, as you said, it's one, it's a hard balance. Two, I think it's one, like it's like this high level topic that not many people talk about, and I think it's just this, in a way, the fact that for the past well, we could say, depends on where you live, but for the most part, like maybe 80 years or something, since or 70 years from the Second World War, the world was relatively peaceful. In a
Hmm.
way, it's blessing, but I think in the on the other hand, it's also the catalyst for why now we are at such a point, especially in the Western world. So part of Europe and US especially, it's like this like heavy emphasis on individualism, because that's what I think like those peaceful times somehow they push towards, like, okay, like more your own kind of freedom, do what you want, all that stuff. And then people don't have to unite anymore, and in a way it's great because yeah, we have peaceful times, let's make most use of it. But now we see that when something happens, and it always does, then it's actually not the best to just care about your individual self and put it above everything else. And I think this is a really interesting kind of perspective that you have, because you have from both the Asian countries, which in general, well, depends which ones, but a lot of them have that kind of culture and society above the individual. It's kind of similar. I have more experience with like South America, for example, and for me, it's not as it's in a bit different way, but still, like, people, like, the most important thing there is to like the people. People are like your relationships with people, and maintaining that, and somehow even here in Poland, which is not as westernized and as like UK, US, it's not as far along in the progress. I still see that a lot, that unfortunately, like, just like everyone became so about themselves, then now, like, when something happens like this, people don't know how to unite anymore. They don't know how to fight some cause together. Everyone's super divided. So what do you think is the solution? Do you think it's like people should kind of experience, like, you maybe, how it is to be in Japan, and how it is there, and then they will get different perspective, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think that, look, I mean, I think a lot of people, it depends on where you are and what kind of attachment you have to your own society as well, right? So a lot of us moved around and live in urbanized locations, and I'm kind of guessing a lot of your listeners probably might be somewhat similar. You might be from the suburbs or rural areas, and you seek a job in urban areas. And then what you start to see is that become very detached from your environment, and you become detached from any neighborhoods that you had when you were growing up, and you live in a place where you don't know anybody, and you might be a single, you might have a family, but in really, there is no local community, right? And you're living in your own apartment, your own house, and everybody else is kind of a stranger. You go to work, come back, and all you do is think about putting bread on your table, keeping your family happy. And now we kind of lose that sense of like how to relate to everybody else around you, because most of the time you're just working, and that's a working relationship. And your friends, you're probably halfway across the world, or you're in a different location in your country, and you're connected by Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is. So you're kind of like hooked on that because you want to keep your connections with other people, not making friends around you, right? And
Yeah.
and when then we go and you start to have that kind of void, like the sense of disconnection. And when you have that disconnection, then you try to fill that void with something else, whether it be materialistic desires, or you want to just be on social media all the time, Netflix or whatever it is that fills your void, because you have that detachment. And what I think really needs is that you need to be out there a lot more. You have to make more connections, make more real friends, stop playing video games, and try to, connect with other people, and then find out what other people's sufferings are, what are other people's, difficulties in life are, and you find that weakness in other people, and you learn to accept it, and you think that everybody else is actually really the same as you fundamentally, right? You might have different political views, you might have different way of social status and all these things. They're all different, but fundamentally, you're all the same. And and you have similar problems. Even if you're rich or poor, you still have family problems, you know. So, and your wife kicks your butt all the time. It doesn't really change. So what people need to do is like really, you know, be able to talk to other people everywhere, and then just kind of understand how people are very similar to you, and how you are really connected to people and in the world around you. So I think that's what's really missing these days, and that's what you really need to do, because you know when you travel to different countries, every time you have to make new friends, and you have to make, you know, new business connections, and you have to do all. Then you start to know more and more people, and the more people you know, more you know that everybody's kind of the same. Whether you're from Poland or you're from Japan or you're from South America, I mean, fundamentally, you know, we're here on this earth for a very, you know, short given time, and we're trying to make the best of it, right? And we all have problems. Everybody has problems, but because you know everybody has problems, you can help each other because of that, and that's what's really important.